Steve, I know the result wasn't what you wanted last Saturday, but the performance was really good in large places, and 2 late goals. How much momentum has that given you for this week? The way that your players kept going.
Well, I'm not surprised they kept going. I thought the performance was good. What's happened last week was just in moments you can normally get away with one individual error or 2. What you can't get away with is 5 all in one phase of play. That's what you can't do, and we did that on a couple of occasions. And when that happens, invariably what happens, the ball ends up in the back of your net. So, there's not a lot you can do about that. Hopefully the guys don't make those mistakes again, and when they do, cover up the guy that's made the mistake. Normally we've been really good at that. So, and last week watching us, the performance, to be fair, the performance was really, really good in parts. I thought it was some of the best football we'd played for probably a good 6 or 8 weeks. So what we've got to try and do is take the positives out of it, keep going, keep enjoying the season, really, because it's been, if you look at it as a whole, it's been an enjoyable season. We've just got to prepare ourselves over the next few games, because now we are in the playoffs, and whatever happens in them happens.
How do you ensure that your hard work gets its just rewards? Because I guess you've got to keep doing that, and you've got to keep believing that hard work pays you back. Repetition's probably the answer to that. Sometimes, the lads need reminders. They're not as, players are not always football nuts, so they don't always think about what they do when they leave the training ground. That's not to say some of our guys don't, and that's not to say, that some of them do either. It happens. So, reminders, you have to remind them of how well they've played in certain times as well, not be sometimes influenced by the result. Even though that we all know that's the end game, we understand that. But just try and keep the performances similar to last weekend, but cut out the errors, really. You've served your 1-game touchline ban. Be good to get back in the dugout?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, 3 bookings, I haven't done bad. It's like 51 games for 3 bookings, and I actually think the things that I've complained about, I complained about the penalty last weekend, I complained about how the referee refereed the game away at Stockport, and I complained at Woking, and I thought they were valid complaints. If I was to complain every time, I could get booked most weeks. So I'm not really bothered about that. If I thought, if that had any effect on, I don't know, the game, could I have maybe been, if on the touchline, could I have maybe eradicated 1 or 2 of those mistakes where there's been 3 or 4 or 5 in one phase? Maybe, because I might have shouted something. I don't know. Either way, look, it happens,
How much difference do you think a manager can make from the technical area?
I don't know. I wouldn't know.
Is it just then you needing to get things out of your system and feel a part of it?
I don't quite understand that one.
Well, you're involved in the game more if you're there shouting and
Probably.
Directing.
Yeah, I mean, 9 out of 10, because I'll repeat a lot of things I say in certain circumstances on the training ground, so I can chuck a couple of numbers at them if I want a passing moment going on that they may have received the ball closed up, whereas they can open up. So if I shout out what I might shout on the training ground, it'll help them sometimes, and other times it might hinder them. I don't know that. Sometimes, when you let them play free and play their own game, they'll do some better things than what you think they might want to do in that moment. The players always have, the idea of the training ground is to give them ideas. It's to just give them ideas, and the ideas you're giving them is based on how the opposition play, And how can you either counteract them moments if it's a defensive mind we need on in that moment, or an attacking moment? How are they lined up? What are they liable to do? What are the players' options on the ball? So a lot of the things, that I give the boys are ideas. Adam May scored an absolute worldy goal the other weekend. I haven't coached him to do that. That was just Adam's brilliance. Liam Sercombe scored one early in the season. That's nothing to do with me. That's just individual brilliance from those lads, and that's just naming two. We've ended up doing lots of good things this season that don't necessarily, come from the coach or the manager. So, they have freedom to do a lot of things out on the pitch. They have a lot of freedom to do that. What I give them are just ideas, but there's some ideas, that when we do give them and they go into the game, if you don't use those ideas when it's absolutely on, then probably what we'll do is we'll show them, we can either show them that because we can show it live at half time, or we'll show them perhaps later on in the following week, because they might come up the same scenario again.
Yeovil, the first of your Easter games. What do you make of how they play?
I think they've done well. I mean, I think first season up, it's a big expectation. It's a big club, Yeovil, and they've been similar to ourselves. They've been like higher up the pyramid. So, I think sometimes when a club's been higher up the pyramid, they think there's perhaps an entitlement to where that club should be, rather than thinking how well they've done to achieve that in the first place. So yeah, I think Mark's done a good job down there this year. I think that it's very difficult when you get promoted, but I think he's done well. And obviously, we're going back down there. We know a few of the lads, so be looking to see a few of the lads again that we already know. With Dom and Marcel and Jacob. So I'll be looking forward to seeing them guys as well at the weekend.
They'll obviously know a bit about you, but you've crossed swords often enough with Mark Cooper. Does that help, sort of knowing about how his teams are likely to line up?
I don't know, it might do. But you could say the same to him about me, couldn't you? So I don't, I don't know what they've done. They've tended to do over the last few games is they've obviously matched up opposition in certain games and then in others. So the bottom line with that is I can't pick his team and he can't pick mine. So the bottom line is with that, you're better off focusing on your own job and let the opposition manager get on with his. But no, we're looking forward to the game.
Not trying to pick your team in any way, but yeah. Tom Knowles had a bit of joy going down the right-hand side, crossing in with his right foot. Is that something that you can only do when you've got two up top? And does the sort of him playing on the left and Carl on the right for most of the season, is that something that lends itself better to 4-3-3 cutting in?
It sometimes depends on who that striker is. It can depend a lot. There's lots of things. It's not just about, Knowlesy going down that right hand side and crossing a couple of balls in last week. It made no difference with Knowlesy crossing balls in where we had two strikers, whether we had one, because the two strikers didn't make the right runs. To which, when we watch it back, or when I watch it back, I tell the players, on that first day back in, that well, we do it in training all the time. So those ideas are the ideas that you've got to execute. Because we don't do that, we don't get on the end of the crosses. So it doesn't matter who crosses them and when they cross them and where they cross them, if we're not making the right runs in the box. And probably what happened, funny enough, because we had two on, I think it messed up their runs. That's what I think it did, because I think they both got caught on their heels with it. So, that can happen. That can happen any time. But whether it's two up or one up, we know the runs, or they know the runs, because we played with two up. We played with two up last year a fair bit. Played with it early on this year a fair bit. And that's not to say we won't do it again, but we'll do it in something where we feel as though it's right, or the timing's right, or whatever like that. I know there's a big deal about it, because you asked somebody, or somebody asked Kyle about it after the game, and Kyle said about two strikers pinning their centre-backs back. You don't pin them back, just puts them under more pressure. But then what happens then is you're really going alpha leather with it, and you're playing with wingers that will open up then the middle of the pitch. and that's what you've got to be careful of, because if you open up the middle of the pitch, you'll lose control of the game. So we know where we are with it. What happens is wingers pin teams back. That's what they do.
Liam Sercombe got
That's
through.
not to say we'll play with wingers all the time either.
Indeed. Liam Sercombe got through the full 90 last Saturday.
Yeah.
Charlie McCann made a comeback appearance off the
Yeah.
bench as well. How have they come through those?
Okay, we'll just wait and see how it goes with those two. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. So, yeah, I just need to wait. We've got another training session today, and I want to look at that and make sure that we don't. We're coming to a critical time of the season now, really. And I don't mean Friday, and I don't mean Monday. I mean we're coming towards a critical time at the end of the season. So, what we don't want in any of those times now is we don't want any reoccurrence of injuries or new injuries. So we've got to make sure everything's spot on with the knowledge that we've got from, you know, our sports science and our medical staff with that. So we talk about that a fair bit.
And everyone else apart from Jordan Moore-Taylor okay?
Well, Jordan Moore-Taylor's another perhaps positive. So, you know, we're okay everywhere else, but hopefully, you know, Jordan might quite lively in the back. Hope they're as lively tomorrow. We'll wait and see how Geordie is as well, because Geordie's doing really well, and that could be a big bonus for us.